Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Ellis here for Professional Photographers of Iowa, and I am here today to chat at you from my car, but hopefully you don't have to look at me a whole lot. Um, with a speaker who's going to be at our upcoming annual convention called Focus Forward. And this person is going to be our kind of headlining speaker, and I'm so excited about having him at this event. The work is amazing that he is doing, and he's a super interesting human being. So, with that being said, I would love to welcome Jonny Edward to this little interview. And yeah, welcome, Jonny.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words too. It really means a lot to me. I'm so excited to be there and to be sort of the keynote and to work with the community. And I'm just, yeah, it's an honor. So I can't wait to be out your way in April. It's coming up so soon.
I know. Yeah, and it's like kind of warm here today in Iowa, which is it's like almost 60 today, which is unheard of this time of year.
Yeah.
So I'm really like, it's spring, it's going to be close. So,
I know it's the
yeah,
same way here in Denver. It's like 72 today. So we got it's just pure spring now. So we won't
yeah,
get into the weather patterns, but we'll enjoy the beautiful day.
awesome. That's good to hear. So tell me a little bit about what you plan to cover in your talk at Focus Forward.
So, I think I'm sort of a very multifaceted person, and I'm going to blame that on the ADHD. But rarely can I hyperfixate on one topic. I think so much of what we do as photographers, as portrait photographers, or photographers of any genre, encompasses so many things simultaneously. Like I'm here in my studio, and when I think about photographing someone in my studio, we have lighting, we have styling, we have set design, we have posing, we have the technical aspect of focal length and aperture, and our camera settings. And so there's all of these different variables that sort of operate in the same equation that we're trying to sort of work with intentionally to some sort of creative end. So I think to that, what I really want to focus on first and foremost is just this idea of getting out of our comfort zone. I think it's really easy for us as photographers to sort of find like a linear method. We learn like a really cool lighting style and then we just stick with it, or we learn a cool editing style and we stick with it. And I think it's very easy for us to get stuck in one way of doing things. And now having formulas is great, especially when it comes to client work and commercial work. Being able to consistently deliver on a certain quality or aesthetic is really great. But I think we sort of dissolve, in the context of that as artists, as creatives. So, I mean,
Yeah.
more than anything else, I want to get people to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I really want all the people who are there, all the artists who are there to reconnect with what made them excited about picking up the camera in the first place. For those of us who have been doing this for years or decades and we're making our living from it, sometimes you go to pick up your camera and it's like, it feels like it weighs a ton.
Yeah.
So we lose some of that connection to ourself and to our art. So I just really want to encourage people to say, hey, like I want all of us to be kids in candy stores again. I want us to pick up our camera and be together and be like, oh my gosh, Johnny, look what I did. And I'll be like, oh, look what I did. And that like fervent passion, that we annoyed our family and friends with for so long when
Yeah.
we first picked our camera up. And, we'll kind of do that through a host of different things. Obviously, I'm going to break down my lighting. I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm known for is how I light, how I layer light, how I create sort of drama and mood using light and shadow. And I think a lot of you are going to find out that it's a lot more simplistic than you probably think. It looks complicated, but once you get into it, you're like, oh, I can do that. So we'll definitely have the epiphany moments with light. We'll talk about things like styling and set design and texture and all of that as well, insofar as it relates to, the models or individuals we're photographing. And then a lot of it's just going to be free form creative play. Whenever I'm teaching, I sort of like to throw myself to the wolves, so to speak, and then figure things out in real time. So all of you are going to get a chance to see not only what I'm doing, but hear why I am doing what I'm doing. And I think the thought process behind creative decisions is really important. And it's something that gets left out far too often, especially in
Yeah.
education. You go to a workshop and there's like traditionally pretty people with pretty gowns and pretty
Yes.
backdrops. And then they're like, take a photo. And you're like, well, this is cool, but like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Why were these decisions made? What were the misgivings leading up to that? So I want people to see me make mistakes. All of you are going to see me build up a lighting setup and then go, I don't like it, and then start from scratch because that's how I really work. So you're going to get a chance to see me move forward and succeed and fail. Of course, we're going to talk about things like framing and everything else. So I mean, it's basically going to be a breakdown of my entire creative process through the context of embracing the unknown and embracing failure. That's been something I've been speaking on a lot recently. And I think us as a society and people, whenever we hear the word failure, we all kind of go like, ugh. We go
Yeah.
into our turtle mode. But the reality is, if we want to succeed, we have to fail. If we want to grow, we have to fail. All of my success as an educator, as an artist, as an individual is all attributable to failure. I fail every day and I fail forward. And so I think as artists, as photographers, as entrepreneurs, we need to really embrace the idea of failure, not as something to be afraid
Yeah.
of, but something that we need to invest in on a daily basis because it makes us better. And if we avoid it, we will never get to where we want to be. So yeah, it's just going to be this sort of massive, chaotic intermingling of everything, like I said, from and also I think the other part of that too is just the human connection element. I'm talking a lot about technical stuff, like obviously lighting and cameras and focal length and cinematic dynamic framing to make it look like we're in motion and all of this really incredible stuff. But I think all of that is great. But if we're not connected to ourselves as individuals and artists, and if we're not connected to the people in front of our camera, all of that is inconsequential. So, really all of this is also going to be built on the foundation of we are people photographers. So we need to make sure that we see the people in front of us, that they feel seen, that they feel heard, that they feel celebrated, that they feel loved.
Yes.
And you can have a technically poor photo that has so much heart and soul, and you look at it and it brings you to tears. And if we evaluated it, you're like, well, it's a little overexposed and there's too much
Mm-hmm.
noise, and they didn't use the rule of thirds and the lighting ratio's off.
Yep.
But it's this
79.
exactly, it's this powerful, beautiful photo. And you can also have something that's very technically masterful, that may even win an award at a traditional print competition, but there's really no depth or significance to it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
whenever I want to create, I want people to look at my work and feel something. And I think that's what I think that's what a lot of us as photographers really want.
Yeah.
Especially who photograph people. It's nice to hear like, oh, your lighting's great, but it's really, really powerful to hear like, I don't know what it is. I keep coming back to this photo. It's like I just feel so drawn to it and it reminds me of this, or I feel this certain way, or it made me cry, or it made me laugh, or I
Mhm.
can see this person's spirit, I can feel their essence, like all of these intangible, beautiful, humanistic things. I,
Yeah.
I think that's what transcends a photograph from just being a photo into being art. And so I really want to inspire and embolden the community to create art that they love. Because if you're creating art that you love, guess what? Other people are going to love it too. And they're going to seek
Yeah.
you out for that art. So I think even there, we're not going to talk about business, but when we focus on art, when we focus on creativity, when we focus on connection, an improvement in our business is a natural byproduct of that because if we're creating from a place of wholeheartedness and we're creating from passion and people can sense that and see that, it's like moths to a flame. People are drawn to creatives who are doing that and leading from that place. Not
Yeah.
just only in their creativity, but in their business, in their studios, and whatever they're putting out there into the world. So, yeah, we can ask more questions, but it's going to be a lot and yet not enough. We're going to cover so much, and then we're going to get to the end of the day and be like, we need another day.
Yeah, it's going to be so good because at this particular event, a lot of the courses are a little bit more business focused.
Yeah.
So I feel like your talk is going to be like a breath of fresh air, and
Good.
everybody who has a camera that's there will be like ready to really dive in and really get the most from your program. So
Yeah, love that.
I think it's going to be amazing. And yeah, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
Me too.
I had a couple thoughts as you were going
Sure.
along, but then you kind of kept going, and I was like, "Oh, he just answered my question.
I
Just answered my
ramble.
question." But yeah, I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And so I think, just to let all of you know as well, outside of the specific format, it's like we'll kind of start with the talk. So I think it's really important to set some intentions. Whenever we're learning, it's like, why are we there? What are we trying to take away from it? And we'll sort of build a place where we can be more receptive to what's happening in real time. And then we're going to create a sort of studio setup. So very similar to what you would see me do here in my studio or in an interior location. We'll play with some canvas or some cloth. We'll build up some texture. We'll have some human beings who are styled in a really lovely, interesting way. And then we'll create a story, because I think ultimately that's what I really refer to myself as a storyteller. I think I tell stories through light, through shadow, through styling, through texture, through tone. And we'll look at things like color theory, of course, but we won't be breaking this down. I'm sorry, everyone. Note now PowerPoint slides from Johnny. It'll be it'll be a very
They'll
immersive,
be
like
tired of that by now, by then
exactly.
anyway.
Well, and we're gonna see all of these things happen in real time on set, which I think is important. Then all of you are going to have a chance to work with these setups as well. I think for me, I'm a very tactile, hands-on learner. So if I listen to a lecture, I can be inspired from it, but it really doesn't plant any seeds in my brain, so to speak. So like
Yeah.
everyone's gonna pick up your camera. You're all gonna have a chance to work on these sets with the individuals that we're photographing. We're gonna make changes to lights. We're gonna play with angles. We're going to play with lenses, we're going to play with framing. And then once we do that in the
Nice.
studio portion, we're all going to get together and have a little field trip in our location because it's such a spectacular, unique space. And we're just going to
Yeah.
go hunting. We're going to go hunting for light. We're going to go hunting for little coves and corners. And we're going to say, like, hey, how do we seek out inspiration in any environment? It's one thing to build it in a studio, it's another thing to avail ourselves to whatever is around us. So we're going to look at something that's a little bit more linear and structured. And then we're going to move into something that's a little bit more free form. And it's going to be the same thing. I'll find spaces, I'll photograph the individuals we're working with. And then you as a community will have a chance to do that as well. So my hope is that people are going to walk away just feeling really excited to create, really inspired to pick up their camera, and really driven to delve deeper into things like lighting, to delve deeper into themselves, to delve deeper into color theory, so that they could be of better service to the individuals they photograph. Because I think that's ultimately what we're here for, is to celebrate and lift people up.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That is like the core of what professional photographers of Iowa like is for. We're here to educate, encourage, and inspire photographers in Iowa and in the Midwest.
I
So
love that.
very fitting. I'm glad you mentioned the location because it is really cool. If you haven't signed up for Focus Forward yet, or you're thinking about it, it's taking place in Amana, Iowa at a hotel that used to be a woolen mill. So there's lots of really huge industrial machinery. There's like you said, cool little alcoves and exposed brick and really cool stuff like that. And hopefully the weather is going to be kind of nice. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. So bring your cameras if you're
Yeah.
coming, because definitely we're going to play.
Camera, extra batteries, extra memory cards. Plan on
Yes.
overshooting. I feel like every time I teach, that's the really funny thing. People come up to me after and they're like, "Oh, Johnny, I love what I created. This was so wonderful. Like, I sort of see the world and see light and see these things differently, but I shot 2,000 photos and I don't know what I'm going to do with all of these." So bring backups for backups for backups. And also everyone bring questions. Whenever I teach and I'm in events like this, I never want this to be a monologue where I'm talking at people. This is a dialogue. We're in this together. We're learning together. We're growing together. We're creating together. So any questions that you may have, bring those. There's going to be enough time. And even when we get to the end of the session, we'll sit down together. We'll make sure that all of your questions are addressed. I don't want you to walk away going, "Oh, that would have been amazing if I could have asked this, or if I could have learned this, or if we could have delved deeper into things." Like, we have that day to spend together and to
Yeah.
just sort of commune creatively together. And it's so wonderful to me to be able to spend time with creatives like this. Like, we get to just assemble in mass and share space and time with one another. And it's just such a beautiful, powerful thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about, like a teeny tiny little bit about what kind of lighting types you are going to be showing? Like,
Yeah.
not necessarily setups, but like brands and
Yeah,
style, constant
absolutely.
versus strobe or whatever.
So what I would really like to do is expose all of you to both, because I use both in my practice, and
Awesome.
I think each has a place. So it's kind of like we're very divisive in the creative community, because it's like, well, I'm a strobe user, well, I'm a natural light
Yeah.
user, well, I'm a constant light user, and it's like
Yeah.
light is light. So I really like to encourage people to see it that way. There's no better light, there's no right or wrong light, there's just different light. So natural light is beautiful. Here in my studio, I have probably 50 lights. It's egregious. But so often I'll have a client or an individual in here, a model, and we'll walk by the windows in the front and I'll go, "The sun." And so I set up 6 lights and I see the window light and I'm like, I can't do it better than the sun. The sun's been doing this a
Yeah.
lot longer than I have. So, I mean, we're going to look at any available natural light that we have for the studio portion. We'll probably be working with constants. I work with nan light predominantly, and we work with constants probably about 80% of the time here in the studio. And the reason
Okay.
being is you can see what you're doing in real time.
Yeah.
So, as I'm making changes, like on this set, if I were to feather this light off or turn my fill light off, we're going to see that result in real time. So since I like to work with a lot of shadow, it's a lot more efficient to do that, especially when teaching, because we don't have to reference a screen or the back of our camera, that type of
Yeah.
thing, but
Good
also
idea.
because it allows the people in front of our cameras to get more comfortable. So I do
Mhm.
photograph a lot of people who don't necessarily like being photographed
Yeah,
and
I
who
think
don't have
we
a
all
lot of,
do.
yeah, exactly, who don't have a lot of experience in front of the camera. And I think the strobes can be a really painful intermediary between us and them, because someone sits down in front of you and they're already uncomfortable and you have your
Yeah.
strobes built up, and then every second they see the flash. Whereas if you have constant lights, it's sort of like this conversation right now. You can just get into a really nice flow where you
Yeah.
don't have that strobing sort of breaking whatever connection you're creating with the person in front of your camera.
Yeah.
Now, With that being said, some of you are purists out there. I know that because I was that way for a long time. So no, we can't shoot at f8 with our constants. It's not going to happen. There's a time and there's a place for our strobes, and that's going to be when we actually move out into the location. So when we're looking around, when we're doing that, we'll work with some strobes, and I work with a bunch of different strobe companies, predominantly Flashpoint. I
Yeah.
also work with Westcott and others. We'll bring one or two strobes with us, and then we'll just say,
Okay.
all right, we have this really beautiful alcove light coming in, but let's say our subject is in shadow. How do we take the
Oh,
light that's already present in the environment and augment it with a single strobe or with two
sure.
strobes? So how do we build on things? How do we integrate these different light sources together? And
Yeah.
hopefully that just really gets people saying like, hey, it's not about the light itself. It's about how we see the light. It's about how we shape the light. It's about how we modify the light. And that can be applied to any light source, even, in your kitchen. If you have fluorescent overhead lights, I hope you don't. But if you have, overhead lights or something like that in your kitchen, if you bring a little piece of black cardboard up top, you can flag that light off and create shape. So
Hmm.
we can create beautiful, captivating, compelling light anywhere. It's all about our vision and our skill set and our ingenuity.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Well, I so greatly appreciate you chatting with me today.
Of course.
I am excited to share this information with everybody or anybody who might be thinking about coming to our event. If you're new and don't know about Professional Photographers of Iowa, we are a nonprofit organization that focuses on encouraging, uplifting, and inspiring professional photographers in the state of Iowa, but also in surrounding states. And we have a convention coming up in April on the 10th through the 13th, and all are welcome. You don't have to be a member of PPI to attend. You also don't have to be a photographer to attend. So I know that I get a lot of inspiration outside of our industry. And so even though this amazing human I have right here is going to be talking heavily on photography, it's still going to be super inspiring and awesome to like sit in on that creative energy. Um, so yeah, go register at ppiowa.com and we'll see you in like a month and a half or so.
And it's gonna go by in the blink of an eye. That's the way this
I
this year
know.
already. I feel like I was just watching fireworks from my balcony, and now I'm like, it's
Ugh,
March. So I every time I sneeze, a week has passed by. So this has been a really surreal year so far.
yeah, well, awesome. I am so excited to have you. And I am gonna sign off for PPI, but Johnny, you stay with me for a second, okay?
Sounds great. Thanks, all. Looking forward to seeing you in April.
Um, how do I stop this? Stop.